Hello chess friends and welcome to your Thought of Chess channel and welcome to another brilliant and spectacular game from the Computer Rapid Chess Championship in 2024. We have here the two most powerful chess engines in the world, Stockfish 17 and Leela C0, battling it out in a crazy Semi-Leningrad variation of the Dutch Defense. And in this game you'll see again a beautiful defensive idea in chess, really one of the most spectacular defensive ideas. Here Leela C0 will again sacrifice its own queen just in order to reach the fortress position. The fortress is of course a position in chess where your opponent cannot have access into your camp, so he doesn't have an entrance point. Maybe he's up in material, but the position is so static, the position is so immobile that there's simply no gap that your opponent could use. So really crazy idea. And what's funny again, that again Stockfish doesn't realize this opportunity by Leela C0. Stockfish evaluates Leela C0's fortress idea in the beginning as a mistake, but then afterwards, as the game makes progress, then Stockfish finally realizes that it's a huge positional problem, that it doesn't have access into Leela C0's camp. So really crazy idea. I've already covered a similar game like this. Please check it out. Here's the link. I think these are really great defensive ideas. We have covered also a beautiful game in which Leela C0 played a beautiful self-stalemate idea where Leela sacrificed all of its pieces just in order to reach the stalemate position. So Leela C0 played really immortal defensive setups for sure. So let's see now this game with the white pieces. The fish opened with the move d4, f5 by Leela C0, the Dutch defense, but as we know, always the organizers are pre-arranging some openings. So here the Dutch defense was chosen by the Computer Chess Championships organizer. So we have here knight to f6, bishop to g2, g6 with the Semi-Leningrad variation of the Dutch, c4, bishop to g7, and now knight to h3. This move, knight to h3, is really one of the best ideas actually here for white. I use it also when I play against these types of positions, against these types of structures. From this square you have access to the f4 square, and many times in this Semi-Leningrad stuff, black is trying d6 e5, and then after d5 knight to f4 you could have a great control of the e6 square. So the knight from h3 is of course a flexible piece, will find great squares all over the board. So we have now castling, now c5, and after move d5 and d6. This was now the position that the engines had to play. From this point on, the engines are calculating the position for themselves. And here my Stockfish engine at home evaluates this position as a +1 evaluation in white's favor, so huge advantage. But I think this advantage comes just because of a space advantage. Usually Stockfish evaluates space as really one of the most important factors in chess. So whenever it gets a space advantage like this, whenever it reaches the 5th rank with its pawns, always Stockfish evaluates as it's much stronger than its opponent here. So here Stockfish says it's almost like winning here for white this position. So let's see now how Leela is defending Stockfish attack. So now after knight to f4, again going for the e6 square, we have knight to a6 by Leela, knight to c3, and now rook to b8 with the progressive stuff with knight to c7, and then launching the flank attack with move b5. Stockfish is not allowing that. First of all attacks the pawn, Leela drops back, and now a4, knight to c7, queen to c2. Now we have reached a theoretical novelty, a new move here by Stockfish 17. Usually in chess history, rook to a3 has been played, e3 and similar stuff. So rook to a3 is also, I think, a good choice. You have then maybe access to the e3 square, and you can also have a nice grip around the square e6. So clearly here many options can be played, but Stockfish first of all keeps it calm. Queen to c2, knight to b5, and now a takes b5. Stockfish keeps now an attack here on the a file. a6, bishop to d2, connecting now the rooks, and again here because of the space advantage the evaluation is about the same. Still Stockfish says here white is much better, and also with this move Stockfish has finished now the development, has connected now the rooks, and has now, I think, great attacking chances. We have now bishop to d7, b takes a6, rook to a6. Now we have a couple of trades, and now when we evaluate the position we can really say that black in this position has more structural weaknesses. Structural weaknesses in the position can be of course a weak pawn or a weak square. We can really agree, I think, that the e6 square is a huge gap in black's camp, but also the a6 pawn now is weak. When it comes to white's position, I see the b2 pawn as a weakness. So Lila will probably try to attack the B pawn. Stockfish will try, of course, to attack the A pawn, but also the weakness on E6. We have rook to A1, queen to B6, bishop to A5, kicking away the queen, and now after this battery that Lila C0 built here, Stockfish advances the pawn and has now a great protection of the B3 pawn. Queen to C8, bishop to D2, knight to G4, we have H3, now knight to E5. Because the knight is standing on F4, you cannot temporarily kick away this knight from a good square on E5, so Lila centralizes now the pieces and hopes now for the best. Lila is waiting here, is not attacking anything. Lila understands here that it has to defend this position. Lila is not going into any attacks here. We have now E3, knight to F7, knight to D3. Again, Lila is hoping to trade off the pieces. Stockfish is not allowing that and simply makes further progress. Again, Lila hopes to get a draw, knight to E5, knight to F7, trying to repeat moves, and Lila understands that it's probably much worse here the position for black, because as we mentioned, white has this space advantage in the center of the board. Knight to E1, again Lila retreats, bishop to C3, bishop takes C3, queen to C3, and now you see after the trades of pieces, we can say that now white has maybe also a slightly disadvantage in the position, which is of course this bad bishop on G2, which is so far neutralized by its own pawn structure. So Lila so far, I think, plays very the optimal moves. We have now knight to G5, we have knight to D3, H6, and now knight to F4. Stockfish goes for the attack, goes simply behind, and now Lila C0 immediately attacks again the B file, because as I said, that's now the main weakness here in white's position. Rook to A3, queen to C8, we have now queen to D2, rook to B6. Lila is trying now to build a different battle with the rook in front of the queen. We have now H4 and now H5. And you see, Stockfish is finally trying to attack something. Stockfish is finally searching for gaps, searching for opportunities, searching for new methods here. Stockfish is here trying to split the pawn chain. If you try here G5 from black's perspective, then of course the knight is coming here, and now the queen is finally deflected from the B file. Maybe then queen to A5 could happen, and black would have a tough time to defend the rook, to defend also the pawn. The pawn on E7 is then weak. So far from H5 here, Lila C0, that's why I played G takes H5, is not allowing dangerous helps here by the knight on G6. We have now knight to H5. Okay, Stockfish provoked now new weaknesses in the position. Now we have very several weaknesses in black's camp. H6 weak, F5 weak, E6 square weak, A6 pawn weak. So 4 or 5 weaknesses I think we can really see in the position. E7 also weak. So really messed up position, but Lila C0 again find simply the best defensive ideas. We have here knight to E5, queen to D1, queen to H8, Stockfish retreats. Lila improves now the position of the knight, shuffles a little bit the knight all over the board, but now after knight to F4 and queen to G8, Stockfish is searching now for the attack here against the pawn on F5. We have now queen to F6, Lila protects it. We have now queen to D1, knight to G4, and now again queen to C2. And again, Lila repeats just moves, saying, okay, if you want to 3-time repetition, I am very satisfied here with the draw. But Stockfish continues now with rook to A2, queen to G5, queen to D1. Now after a couple of repetitions again, Stockfish improves now finally the position of the king. And now comes the critical moment of this amazing game. Here, bishop to D7 was played by Lila C0. Now queen to A1 here by Stockfish 17. Stockfish attacks now the pawn on A6. Of course, if you pick up this pawn on A6, also the B3 pawn is weak here. So Lila C0 here in this particular position played now rook takes B3 anyway. And in the beginning, when I analyzed the game at home, I thought, okay, why is black allowing now some entrance by white here? Now, finally, look at this. White will simply occupy the 8th rank. Will of course include the queen into the attack. Maybe the 7th rank can be also attacked. So now, finally, here Lila C0 allowed here Stockfish to somehow attack here black's king, but Lila C0 actually calculated everything in a good way. Here, after rook takes b3, my Stockfish engine at home evaluates this as an inaccuracy. Stockfish says this is not a good move, you're allowing me here to attack you, but Lila C0 has everything under control because Lila found a really incredible, immortal, beautiful fortress idea. Look at this. Really wild stuff. Rook to b8 here by Lila C0, first of all covering the 8th rank. Stockfish attacks now the 7th rank. Lila retreats. We have now the move e4. F takes e4. Now Stockfish found a beautiful idea how to get the bishop on e6, which was in the beginning, as we mentioned, the main gap, the main weakness in black's camp. But Leela C0 has, as I said, everything calculated. After rook to a8, we have rook takes a8, queen to a8. The bishop is attacked. You have to now defend it. Stockfish attacks now the king. Really, really crazy. And now after king to f8, bishop to d7, it seems so that this position is collapsing because the bishop is pinned, and now the e6 square is also cleared. There is now a huge problem after potential knight to e6, and now Leela C0 plays a beautiful knight takes d7. First of all, sacrifices the queen after knight to e6. We have king to f7, knight takes g5, h takes g5, and it seems so that this could be a losing position for black here, because okay, you gained 2 minor pieces, but you lost the queen. But Leela C0, as I said, really found great ideas. After knight to f6 and king to f1, we have g4. And suddenly, look at this, the position is so static, you don't have an entrance point, you don't have any entrance ideas here with the white pieces. The knight is blocking out the queen. Even if you try to get the queen somehow here, still the king can always control here. You can play king to g7, king to g6, king to h, king to g8, whatever the position is asking to you to do, but there's simply no entrance point. This bishop is covering, of course, the 8th rank. The knight is protecting the bishop. You cannot have an entrance here through the light squares because everything is covered. We can always play king to g6 or similar stuff. The knight on f6 is protecting this pawn. So really an amazing, really incredible immortal fortress again by Leela C0. I've also analyzed after knight to f6, I thought maybe here a chance for white would have been to play the move g4. G4, of course, would lead into complications if you play, of course, something like knight to g4. Then queen to h1 can be played, and maybe then white has some attacking chances. But after potential g4, black doesn't have to even react. Black can play simple bishop to d7 and will eventually capture here the pawn with the bishop, or can even leave the pawn like this. Again, you don't have an entrance point. If, for instance, something like queen to a8 happens, then you again cover just the 8th rank. The knight is protecting always the bishop. You can even play freely with your king, and again, no positional strats here in black's position. Really wild stuff. After knight to f6, Stockfish tried to battle. Here Stockfish is trying to do something, but it's simply not working. I will show you now the whole game. I'm sorry, this game is really long, but I will show you that even in this position, Stockfish will try to do something. That's also the beauty of this game, I would say, because many of us would settle for a draw. Stockfish will try here, actually a wild idea. Stockfish will try now to sacrifice somehow its own 2 pawns here, just in order to create any open spaces and then get to the king. Leela C0, as I said, just has to repeat moves, and I think it's really beautiful thematic draw. But okay, here against Leela C0 covers the 8th rank. Stockfish is trying to do something with the king, but the king obviously doesn't have access here. Again, Stockfish maneuvers the king, but now after king to g6, you see no entrance point again here for white. Leela is trying something like queen to a7. Stockfish is here playing king to g7, and now king to e3. Here, even if you try to do something like this, then always there is a possibility of king to f7, and we always cover, and again, nothing wild can happen here. You don't have access again to the h7 square. Really amazing position. So the Stockfish tried to repeat moves. We have bishop to e8, bishop to king to f4. Again, here simple moves, and now Stockfish attacks, but Leela C0 always protects now the pawn on e7. We have now king to g7, again a repetition, and now Stockfish is searching for new opportunities, but it's not working here. Queen to a2, king to f7, again a repetition, and now after king to g5, again knight to h7 here by Leela C0 kicking away the queen is not allowing, of course, the king to be active here on this square. We have king to h4, knight f6. We have now this idea, and again Leela C0 covers things. But now, after a couple more moves, Leela goes for the c4 pawns, which was maybe even a plan by Stockfish, trying to do something, trying to maybe open some spaces finally for the queen. But after queen to c8, Leela C0 accepts the challenge. So okay, says, show me what you got. I'll grab now all of these pawns, but now the position suddenly gets open, and I'm not sure how this game would end, maybe in a human level. but still tough to play. Now finally Stockfish is getting the king closer. The queen is now close enough. Maybe if you make, of course, mistakes, this could be also losing game for black. But okay, after queen to bishop to d5, queen to f5, Stockfish again tries to somehow get the queen into the game, but again Lila plays the same moves, simply plays king to f7 and now king to f8, again repeats moves, and slowly but surely Lila starts to push the pawns, which is really crazy. Queen to c8, bishop to e6, queen to b7, and now e3. Good move, I would say, again by Lila c0, which now liberates also this diagonals for the light square bishop. The light square bishop now is more active. Bishop to f5, you see, Lila is trying to push the pawn. Now there is no e4 pawn here. Now after potential c2, if, for instance, Lila manages to push the pawn to c2, then it could be also a very dangerous position here for white. So really crazy stuff. We have queen to c6, bishop to d3, again a check. Stockfish gets challenged, again tries to repeat moves, but now after knight to f6, Stockfish plays again king to h4, e5 by Lila. Lila is launching now the pawns, risky stuff. The king is now suddenly naked. We have now queen to b7, king to e6, again a couple of checks by Stockfish. Lila of course plays the same moves, again now knight to e4. Slowly but surely it seems more and more like Stockfish could lose this game, because now the pawns are marching, and this pawn, if it gets to c2, as I said, very messy position also here for white. Now, so now a check, again Stockfish plays a couple of checks and now grabs this pawn. Now very critical moment after queen to g4. Stockfish has also created now pass pawn, which is very crazy, dangerous position. Now if again black and white don't play the accurate moves, someone could lose this game. Very spectacular position. Knight to c5, again a couple of checks here by Stockfish. Lila plays the same moves, and now slowly again Stockfish suddenly pushes the pawn here on the g file. We have now c3, g5, c2, we have g6, king to d5. Really crazy stuff, because you cannot promote here to c1. This is actually not working, because after queen to f7 you get checkmated. Really crazy. So that's why after move g6, Lila c0 tried first, king to d5, now a check, and now Lila covers with the knight. We have now the move g7. Now again the promotion on c1 is not working, because we have here the check. Now you get checked, and look at this, you lose the queen now, and now it's a different story. Now the spaces are open, and actually this would be a losing game now. Finally here for black. Look at this, c1 and queen to b7. There's simply no good square. This square is covered, this square is covered, so you have to go towards the c file. And now after something like this, you can maybe cover, but then here this queen is coming into the game, and I would say here game over for black. So again, even after move g7, Lila c0 still cannot promote to pawn to c1. So that's why bishop to h7, Lila covers now the g8 square. We have queen to b7, again a couple of checks by Stockfish 17, and now after queen to d6, finally Lila c0 promotes the queen, but now gets check. Stockfish now grabs the knight. We have now a new check, and now here after bishop to g8, it was of course a thematic draw. Let's see now the continuation here in a potential line. Something like this could happen, even if you maybe lose this pawn. We'll simply trade off the queens here, waiting of course here in one moment. We'll give up of course maybe here the bishop for a pawn, and again it's a completely drawish position. So incredible stuff. You see how the engines here are producing really crazy ideas. First of all, the beautiful idea by Lila c0 to allow here even Stockfish to get somehow the open position, but then playing an immortal, really spectacular fortress idea. And then eventually Stockfish found a beautiful idea how to spice up the game, allowed Lila to take some pawns just in order to get new spaces for the queen. Eventually allowed even to push the pawns here by Lila c0, but then suddenly it was a draw. Incredible performance again by these two top engines. And I have to mention also here in this video, we have also currently the new TCEC season 27 going on, where, believe me or not, Lila c0 is in the lead. Lila has now a whole point in front of Stockfish 17. Stockfish wins the games that are pre-arranged by the organizer when it has a huge advantage, but then also loses the reverse games. Lila c0 is not losing so many times. Lila is winning the games with the white pieces, but plays also nice draws with the black pieces. So far Lila c0 is in the lead. So you see it's now really finally a beautiful rivalry between the two most powerful chess engines in the world. And okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas here. For sure in this game, beautiful defensive ideas like the fortress. If you want to see the other fortress that we have covered a couple of days ago, here's the link to the video. And if you want to see also the amazing, spectacular, immortal self-stalemate idea here by Lila0, check out also this other video. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.